به نام خدا. سلام، امیدوارم حال دل همگی خوب باشه. خوشحالم که باز در خدمتتون هستم که با یک موضوع دیگه با هم دیگه گفتگو داشته باشیم. قبل از هر چیزی امیدوارم که از ویدیوهامون خوشتون بیاد، ما رو داشته باشید، فالومون کنید، ویدیوهامون رو سابسکرایب کنید که ما انرژی بیشتری برای ادامه کار داشته باشیم.
Welcome, fellow knowledge seekers, to the deep dive. Today, we're plunging into a world often painted as a tranquil paradise. You know, a lush animal Eden. But what if I told you the common perception is dramatically off? We're talking about jungles, and we're about to explore why they are, in reality, fierce, relentless wildlife war zones. Our mission: to uncover the brutal yet utterly fascinating realities of survival within these incredibly complex ecosystems. We'll be looking at both the incredible adaptations and the ever-increasing challenges the creatures living there face.
It's remarkable, isn't it, how the source material truly brings this to life. It reveals a constant, intense battle for survival. Despite that vibrant, lush appearance, it's a relentless struggle where, as our research puts it, well, only the strongest make it to the top.
Yeah.
And what's becoming ever clearer is how unpredictable weather patterns are making this battle even fiercer.
That paints a vivid picture, just how brutal survival can be. So let's dive deeper into what makes these ecosystems such relentless arenas, the sheer unyielding conditions that define jungle life.
Exactly. We're talking torrential rain, tropical heat.
And the relentless assault of insects. It sounds exhausting.
It is. It's an environment where, as the sources warn, if you're not prepared, the jungle will eat you alive.
Wow.
And these extreme conditions have paradoxically created a home for more species than anywhere else on the planet. It's incredible diversity.
But it's that density of life.
Exactly. And the sheer unending competition that transforms it into what feels more like a wildlife war zone.
A constant struggle for resources.
And that's amplified by unpredictable rains. These downpours are the lifeblood, but their growing erraticism makes the battle for survival fiercer with every passing year.
Right. And speaking of those rains, even rainforests have distinct dry seasons, which might surprise some people.
It does, yeah. And during these periods, rivers become the absolute focus, the center of jungle life.
Drawing everything in, creating these intense bottlenecks.
Indeed. Think about the jaguar, South America's apex predator.
A powerful hunter.
Our sources tell us jaguars will hunt anything from a vowar that's a ground rodent to an anaconda.
Huge range.
But even for them, nothing's guaranteed. They can face days without food, living on a razor's edge.
Makes you wonder how they survive at all. How critical are those unique adaptations?
Extremely. Like the jaguar's aquatic hunting.
They're described as the most aquatic of all big cats.
Yes, finding success where others might not, like in the water hunting capybaras.
But even that strategy has limits.
Especially as dry seasons become more extreme and competition for prey increases. You've got veteran males who've hunted there for over a decade. They know the ropes.
So where do you go when the prime spots are too crowded?
Well, for the female jaguar in our sources, it's less contested waters.
But that sounds risky.
It is. These areas are often where prehistoric killers like caiman lie in wait.
So survival depends on what? Speed? Stealth?
A precise right bite. It needs to pierce skull and immobilize it instantly.
Wow.
A kill this big, like taking down a caiman, has rarely been recorded.
And it can feed her for days, I imagine.
For days! It's a huge achievement. Shows that brutal calculus of risk versus reward. Survival hanging by a thread.
And while jaguars face these high-stakes battles down low, the dry season pressure isn't just for predators, is it?
Not at all. Think about a young orangutan high up in the canopy.
A very different struggle.
Completely. Fruit makes up around 60% of her diet.
Finding that must be hard.
It requires a complex mental map of where fruit trees are and, crucially, when they'll bear fruit. And that takes years to develop.
And conditions are worsening, you mentioned.
They are. Rainfall has dropped by a third in some areas. Droughts are more frequent.
How can she predict anything when her world keeps changing so fast?
It's incredibly difficult. And this instability also means the more she searches, the more she risks.
Exposure to predators. Or just wasting energy.
Both. It's a constant, desperate calculation.
And below her, on the forest floor, the battle is just as brutal. Maybe more so.
You could argue that only about 2% of sunlight actually penetrates that dense canopy.
2%. So light, not water, is the real limiting factor down there.
Absolutely. It's an almost unimaginable fight for survival.
How bad is it?
Well, the research shows for every 100,000 seeds that fall, only one will survive.
1 in 100,000.
And fewer still will ever reach the canopy. It's nature's relentless winnowing process.
Astronomical odds.
They literally have to fight for their place in the sun, and just half an inch can mean the difference between life and death.
Half an inch.
This struggle makes the jungle floor one of toughest, most competitive environments on Earth. Every leaf matters.
So with food scarce, plants have their own defenses too, right? Not just passive victims.
Definitely not. They fight back with spikes and poison, loading their leaves with toxins.
Making animals sick with each bite?
Sicker and sicker. It's like chemical warfare.
Wow. Is there any way around that?
There is an antidote, believe it or not.
What is it? Another plant?
No, it's clay.
Clay.
Seriously.
Yes, rich in the vital minerals and salts needed to neutralize those toxins? That's fascinating. But getting to it must be dangerous.
Extremely. To reach these specific clay licks, animals embark on a dangerous mission.
Facing predators.
Exactly. Ocelots, jaguars, pumas. It turns into a deadly game of hide and seek.
And the longer the dry season,
The more often they have to risk it. Increases their exposure exponentially.
it makes perfect sense then that staying off the ground is a good strategy if you can manage it.
Absolutely. That young orangutan we mentioned. She spends a remarkable 90% of her time in the trees.
Safe for most ground predators, at least.
And being the heaviest arboreal species, they have this clever energy-saving trick.
What's that?
They let their weight do the work. Tree swaying saves half the energy she would normally use to climb.
That's smart. Adapting to the conditions.
And the food shortage forces her to rest more, too.
Yeah.
And each afternoon, she does this ritual.
A ritual.
She carefully weaves branches into a nest, keeps her safe through the night, every single day.
Incredible. Okay, here's something that really surprised me from the sources.
What's that?
These very trees actually help create the jungle's weather.
It sounds amazing, doesn't it? But it's true. By the end of the dry season, the intense sun makes the trees pump out huge amounts of water vapor.
How much are we talking?
More than any other time of year, almost 20 billion tons every day across the Amazon, for instance.
20 billion tons a day.
Yeah. All this water then condenses, and boom, it literally creates the wet season.
An incredible natural factory.
It is. But what happens when that factory starts to break down?
That's the worrying trend you mentioned.
Exactly. Our sources show this jungle is shrinking. Its rain-making power is fading.
How is that showing up?
Every decade, the shift from dry to wet season comes a week later.
A week later every decade.
Oh.
It seems small, but I guess it adds up.
It has massive implications for all life there. Intensifies that war for resources even more.
Okay, so with all this intense competition during the day,
Some creatures are forced into the night.
like the spectral tarsiers, they look amazing.
Incredible adaptations. To succeed in that darkness, their eyes are literally bigger than their brains.
Bigger than their brains. Wow.
Gives them the best night vision of any primate, but they still need every advantage.
Like the moon.
Exactly. When there's a full moon, this family can hunt for twice as long. Big difference in finding prey.
But what happens when the moon is hidden? Storm clouds roll in.
Then the advantage shifts. Others are even better equipped for the shadows.
Like the python.
Right. This python operates differently. It sees with heat and smells with taste.
Sees with heat. Smells with taste. That's almost alien.
Gives it a huge advantage in the dark. Seems unfair, almost.
So the tarsiers are vulnerable then.
They would be, but they have their own defense.
Which is?
Community. Living in a group means these tarsiers can look out for each other. Shared vigilance.
Ah, safety in numbers.
Precisely. With no element of surprise, the python has no chance. It really shows the power of working together in such a tough place.
But life is about to get even tougher, isn't it? The wet season arrives.
And it's hitting harder than ever before.
More intense rain.
And more lightning. There are more lightning strikes in jungles than anywhere else on Earth.
Really? Why is that?
All that moisture and heat creates perfect conditions. And by 2050, some estimates project strikes will increase by a third.
A third more. That's significant.
It's a powerful paradox, isn't it?
How so?
The very storms these trees help create can also be their downfall. A big strike can kill a giant emergent tree.
But that's not entirely bad.
No, it's an essential part of the cycle. The death of a huge tree opens up the canopy.
Letting light reach the floor.
Exactly. Fueling new growth, clearing space. It's destruction and creation intertwined.
And the increased humidity from the rains triggers something else on the forest floor.
Oh, yeah. A chain reaction. Fungi and slime molds just explode.
Doing what?
They race to decompose all the dead matter leaves, fallen branches, dead animals.
So like nature's cleanup crew.
But supercharged. Rot and decay run rampant faster than anywhere else on Earth.
How dominant are they?
It's incredible. In some jungles, species of fungi actually outnumber plants 33 to 1.
33 to 1.
They play an absolutely vital role, recycling critical nutrients that the forest needs to grow.
How do they spread so effectively?
Many spread by releasing spores, just clouds of them. Up to 30,000 spores a second from some types. A silent army working constantly.
Okay, but you mentioned something a bit more gruesome. Not all fungi just eat dead stuff.
No. This is where it gets, well, kind of horrific. The cordyceps fungus.
I think I've heard of this, the zombie ant fungus.
That's the one. Our sources describe it chillingly. Days ago, a spore landed on an ant. She starts acting strangely.
What's happening inside her?
A network of fungal roots, mycelium, has infiltrated her muscles. Her body is being taken over by cordyceps.
Taken over.
It floods her brain with chemicals, drugging her, essentially hijacking her nervous system.
To make her do what?
It compels her to leave the colony, climb a stem, and head to a spot with the perfect conditions, just the right light, the right humidity for the fungus.
Not for the ant.
Definitely not for the ant. Then it forces her to clamp down in a death bite on a leaf or stem. She dies there.
And then?
After about 3 weeks, a stalk erupts from the dead ant's head. The cordyceps releases its own spores.
Infecting more ants below.
Exactly. A rapid chain reaction. It can wipe out entire ant colonies.
That's terrifying, like something from science fiction.
It really is a profound insight into the jungle's darker side. Evolution's ingenuity can be brutal.
And it's not just ants.
Oh no. There are over 600 species of cordyceps worldwide, mostly in jungles. They prey on a whole host of victims, spiders, other insects.
A chilling but essential part of the ecosystem, I suppose.
It seems so, part of that constant struggle.
Okay, shifting gears a bit, the wet season also means fruit.
Yes, a flush of fruit in the canopy. Good news for some.
Like largibbons.
Right. They need to move fast before it's all gone.
And they are fast. The sources say they fly through the trees at 35 miles an hour.
Yeah, incredible agility. Even carrying a baby, they can cover 40 feet in a single leap.
Breathtaking. Like aerial acrobat.
Driven by that urgency to feed.
But their world is changing too, isn't it? You mentioned fragmentation.
Yes, their forest is being fragmented by human activity, chopped up. Meaning, one day, they might face a gap between trees. A jump they simply can't quite make.
A dead end. That's worrying.
And the struggle for food gets amplified when the wet season itself becomes more erratic.
Shorter, more intense bursts of rain, you mean?
Exactly. Sometimes, if it's too wet, it's actually best just to sit tight and wait it out. Find shelter.
Like that young orangutan.
Right. She learned from her mother how to make a jungle umbrella from large leaves.
A jungle umbrella. That's brilliant.
Very clever. Comes in handy in the rainiest environment on Earth. A small comfort.
So for many animals, heavy rain means stop, halt activity.
But for some, that's just not an option.
Ooh.
Think about the male-booted racket-tail hummingbird. Tiny thing.
Ah, the ones with the amazing tails.
That's him. He lives perpetually on the brink of starvation.
Seriously.
Just 2 hours without nectar and he could die. They have the fastest metabolisms on Earth.
How much nectar do they need?
He needs to visit maybe 2,000 flowers a day just to survive.
2,000, that's relentless. And rain must be a nightmare for something so small.
Absolutely. When you weigh less than a nickel, raindrops aren't just wet, they're a bombardment.
Like getting hit by tiny missiles.
It waterlogs his feathers, slows him down, makes flying even harder when he's already running on empty. The clock is always ticking.
And he still has to compete for those flowers, even in the rain.
Fiercely. He faces off against a buff-tailed coronet, a bigger, more aggressive hummingbird.
Who is?
The coronet usually wins, keeps the best flowers for itself. The racket-tail is no match, has to wait, try to sneak a sip.
Just sneaking a sip. And hovering takes so much energy.
More energy than almost any other activity on Earth. The sources say you'd have to drink over a can of soda a minute to keep up with his energy needs.
A can of soda a minute. Unbelievable.
He manages to win a brief fight against another racket-tail, gets a quick drink, a temporary victory.
But he can't rest.
Nope. The next downpour is never far off. The battle just continues non-stop.
It's incredible how water defines everything here. Lifeblood and major challenge.
And sometimes in truly extreme ways. Think about the Amazon flood cycle.
Caused by rain far away.
Exactly. Rain falling in the distant Andes thousands of miles away.
And it transforms the Amazon basin.
Massively. So much water collects that the Earth's crust actually sinks by 3 inches under the weight.
The ground sinks.
Creates a drowned forest that can last for months.
Wow. What's that like for the animals?
Hugely challenging. Moving between trees becomes difficult. Creatures usually on the forest floor find themselves floating 30 feet above it.
Like the sloth. They seem particularly ill-suited for swimming.
You'd think so. Their usual home is flooded. They need to swim for food, but they seem so defenseless against what lies beneath.
But they have an adaptation.
A unique one, those fermenting leaves in their stomach. They fill her stomach with gas, helps keep her afloat. Buoyancy aid.
Seriously. Built-in flotation device.
Pretty much. It makes her 3 times faster in water than on land. Specialized survival.
Amazing. And the flood opens up opportunities for others?
A whole new world for some. Pink river dolphins, for instance.
They come into the forest?
Yeah, they can explore an area larger than Arizona during the flood.
How do they navigate in that murky, flooded forest?
Echolocation. But they use higher frequencies than their marine cousins.
Why higher?
It gives them superior definition, better detail. Lets them create incredibly detailed sound maps to hunt fish among the submerged trees, like seeing with sound.
But these water levels aren't stable, are they?
Becoming much less predictable. Recently, these floods have reached record-breaking highs.
But also...
devastating lows, extreme droughts.
And that's the biggest threat now. Drought.
As our world changes, yes, drought is emerging as the greatest natural threat to jungles worldwide.
Is there an example of where this has already happened?
Look at Australia. It was once covered by a jungle larger than the Amazon rainforest. Huge.
And now?
Now, barely 1% survives, just clinging on in pockets to what little water remains.
And the animals there?
Like the little red flying foxes, they're clinging on too, but it's incredibly tough.
How tough?
It's 104 degrees Fahrenheit, that's 40 C. Just 4 degrees more and this male will die of heat shock.
4 degrees. That's a tiny margin.
He needs shade, but with hundreds of thousands in the colony, the cool spots are hard-won, constant jostling.
And they must get desperately thirsty.
Dangerously dehydrating. The river is their only salvation.
Duh.
It can also be their ruin. These waters are infested with freshwater crocodiles.
A deadly dilemma. Drink or risk being eaten.
Their strategy is to share the risk. They have to dip their fur in the river to collect water to lick off.
But no one wants to go first.
Exactly. Terrifying moment, shared vulnerability, waiting for someone else to brave it.
He makes it this time.
He's safe for now, but he has to do this every day until the rains come.
What's the long-term outlook?
Grim. The sources suggest over the next 50 years, it could get too hot and dry for this colony to survive at all.
That's a chilling thought.
It really is,
But
and it makes you ask.
could this be the future for jungles around the world? So, after exploring all this, what does it all mean for you, the listener? We've seen some truly remarkable adaptations, haven't we? Clever strategies, surprising connections.
Absolutely incredible resilience.
But we've also seen the extreme vulnerability. These super specialized creatures, they're struggling in a rapidly changing climate.
It highlights just how fragile even these incredibly rich ecosystems are.
So connecting this to the bigger picture.
Right. These amazing forests, they're far more than just homes for wildlife, as important as that is. They create oxygen, they drive rainfall patterns that nourish our entire planet.
And they hold more biodiversity than anywhere else.
A greater diversity of animals than anywhere else on Earth, yeah.
Yeah.
But today's changing climate makes life even tougher, pushing species to their absolute limits.
And the stark reality is,
Rainforests around the world are disappearing, faster than ever before. It makes the future for creatures like that young orangutan we followed. Well, it's becoming less certain by the day.
which leaves us with a final thought to ponder. Given that these complex ecosystems aren't just homes, but they're also essential climate regulators for the whole planet.
Yeah.
What is our role? Our role in understanding and perhaps safeguarding these incredible, vital wildlife war zones that are so critical to global health.
امیدوارم که استفاده کرده باشی. یادتون نره ویدیوهامون رو سابسکرایب کنید، برای دوستاتون بفرستین لینک ویدیوهامون رو و ممنونم که همراه ما هستین. روز روزگار به کامتون خوش و خدا نگهدارتون.